welcome back to my channel. I'm Kassiah and this is SiahSwag. I have a fabulous tutorial for you today that I hope you all will totally enjoy. I loved every minute of making this pattern. I made 2 bags and each time it was fun, enjoyable, loved the end result. We are making the new Shamballa pattern, Route 1970. It's a messenger style bag and oh my goodness, you guys are gonna love it. Like, I'm always having people ask if I can do more messenger style bags. Here you go. I made it kind of girly and kind of manly so you could see the difference. I feel like this one could go probably either way. This is definitely girly, obviously. But how could I not do a pink one? I just can't. I used cork on the flap and the side pieces and the buckle. I used vinyl for the exteriors, canvases, and bonded poly for the insides. All the hardware's from me. Oh my goodness. I will go over both of these. So this one right here is the first one I did. This cork is from my Handmade Space. The vinyl is from Tulip Bee and the lining is Smoothie Smooth from Tulip Bee. Absolutely love it. I used Decaville Light, Decaville Heavy. I think foam would be fabulous on this bag too. I think a quilted one would be amazing. This buckle piece right here, it's just decorative. So if you don't have a buckle, you can leave that off, but it sure is cute and it's easy. I do sell these on my website. I'm currently out of a few finishes, but working on a restock. Okay, so you lift the flap up. It's got magnetic snaps. It's got this big front slip pocket on it, which I love. The inside, I did a welted slip pocket like she has in the pattern. I didn't do a zipper pocket just because I feel like the outside has these 2 big pockets. I didn't need as many on the inside. I love this welted slip pocket. Love it, love it. If you haven't tried it, you should do it. On the sides, it has these little, whoops, I'm getting caught. It has slip pockets on the side here. They're not very big. I think a littler, smaller phone could fit in them. They have a magnetic closure right there. Not needed. You could leave that off if you wanted to leave it open, but it's more secure with it on. And then along the back, you have this zipper pocket here. Nice and big and roomy. Love it. I pretty much follow the instructions to the T. I don't change. I'm trying to think. Do I change anything? All I change is how the interfacing is attached on a couple pieces. I'm just going to show you how this looks on me real quick. I absolutely love this bag. Look how cute that is. Obviously, I need to make it longer there. That's about how big it is. It's a good size. It's a good size. Guys, it's such a cool design. I love it. So the one that we do in the tutorial today, very similar. I used kind of the same type of ideas for materials, cork, vinyl, but just waterproof canvas for all my canvas pieces. And then other than that, it's pretty much the same thing. You have your slip pocket here. You got your big pocket with the welted slip pocket there. Side pockets and the zipper pocket in the back. Go get this pattern. You guys will not be disappointed. I would say, so this is a drop-in lining. For those of you that don't like drop-in linings, you could totally birth this bag. It might be harder for heavier weight materials, but if you were doing it out of lighter weight materials, you could birth it through the inside zipper pocket if you made one. And do a double turn even. But I really liked this drop-in. I feel like it's very doable on a flatbed or on a cylinder arm or a regular machine because it's nice and wide and you can go from the inside of the bag. So don't let that stop you from getting this pattern. Anything else? I love how she has these little strap accent pieces to put on your strap. And I mean, great design, Sammy. Sammy did a fabulous design with this bag. If you haven't heard of Shamballa or her patterns, go check them out. They are fabulous. I love everything that Sammy comes out with. It's always perfection, always. So I will link all the materials that I used and where I got them down below in the description, and all the other information that you need to know. This little floral one will be for sale on my website if you're interested. I don't know about this one yet. I'm going to see if my son wants it. If he doesn't want it, I'll put it for sale on my website. But yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you haven't subscribed, please do. It really helps me out. And let me know if you guys have any comments or questions. I try and answer them. And I hope you enjoy this tutorial. I hope it helps you. Please post your bags on my socials. I have tag me, SiahSwagBags, on our Facebook group or on your social. I love to see what you guys make. All right, let's get going. Okay, let's go over our pieces. I did a cutout video live a couple days back if you want to check that out. And you can kind of see the details about actually cutting the bag out. And then I'm going to show you everything I've got here. Okay, so this is my base bottom piece. And I have the purse feet already on. It's optional whether you want to do the purse feet or not. I think it's cute with it. And I have Decaville Heavy out of my seam allowances with that piece right there. And that is vinyl. I'm using vinyl, cork, waterproof canvas. Yeah, Decaville Light, Decaville Heavy. All right, so this is my back panel top. And I kind of explained in the cutout video that instead of doing a full piece of interfacing after I piece the front and back panels together, I'm going to do the back panel separately. So I figured out the measurements for the interfacing and did all of the back pieces with separate interfacing. Okay. I have my back panel bottom, again, interfaced. My gusset bottom, 2 linings, and I did interface those separately, which is different than the pattern. Same with my gusset top pieces, 2 of those interfaced. And I do have my drop-in line already drawn on all my pieces as well. Go ahead and do that before you even begin. It's super helpful. Slip pocket exterior bottom piece. So this will be the front of the bag. I will still be interfacing it after I piece the top and bottom of that together. But for the slip pocket piece, I went ahead and did some Decaville Light where my snaps go and where my rivets are gonna go. I really suggest doing some extra stabilizer behind those areas on all your pieces where you have any kind of snap or clip or connector added. So this will be my main front stabilizer after I piece those 2 pieces together. And I have my heat press all heated up and ready to go. My flap pieces, I have the back side of my flap right here. Not interfaced yet, but I did put some stabilizer where the snaps are gonna go. I have the 2 front pieces of my flap. Here's the top piece. And then here is the bottom piece. Okay. You could just do 1 full piece if you don't want like the accent, but the accent's really cute. I highly recommend doing it. My slip pocket exterior, again, I have some stabilizer behind where my snaps are going on those 2 of those pieces. My side pocket linings, I have 2 of those. And then let's see, my connectors, I've got 2 strap connectors. I did interface them in the middle with some Decaville Light. I feel like whenever you have a crossbody strap or handles or anything, you need to make sure those connectors aren't going to rip. I've had that happen before, so I always put a strip of Decaville Light down the center. I've done tape, and those are ready to go. I've got my buckle connector. Same thing. It's marked in the middle, taped, ready to go. My 2 zipper tabs. My strap edge cover. So this is going to be for our crossbody strap. It's a cute little addition. Not 100% necessary, but I highly recommend you do it. It's a cute add-on to the bag. This is my strap loop for that buckle part. I've got that taped and centered, ready to go. and my flap accent strip. This will go over the raw edge of the flap on the back of your bag. I have it centered with tape ready to go as well. My front panel top, I have one of those. And I have one more, what is it? In here, sorry. Let's see, my front panel bottom. I have one lining piece of that, front panel bottom. And my slip pocket lining, one of those. My inside, let's see, oh, my slip pocket exterior, one vinyl. And then I have a piece of Decaville Heavy. When I did my first bag, I'm not doing a raw edge flap. I'm going to finish it. And I like to put Decaville Heavy in after I've sewn the two and turned it out. I feel like it made a really nice structured flap. Totally up to you how you want to do it, but that's how I'll be doing it for this bag. I have my two inside lining pieces. My two zipper pocket. I have an outside zipper pocket and I have an outside zipper pocket and a welt pocket. So like a slip pocket. And it's got this little accent of cork on it. It's really cool how she does it. I highly recommend trying it. And then I have some pocket facing for the welt pocket for that. And I'll show you how to do all that. And then I have my lining contrast band that goes on the inside top part of your lining. I recommend that it matches your exterior, whatever your exterior is up against it. It makes it look really nice. So I have two pieces of vinyl for that. And then our hardware, actually, there's not a lot of hardware for this bag. I don't think it's pretty light. You just need, I'm not doing an inside zipper pocket. I'm just doing an outside. So I have some zipper tape for that. I have one zipper pull. I have my nameplate, your handmade tag, whatever you want to do. Two 1-inch D-rings for that side, those side connectors for your crossbody strap. Two 1.5-inch hooks. It depends on what size of webbing, what size of strap you're doing. I'm going to do 1.5-inch webbing. I think there is four total magnetic snaps. And then I have a strap buckle, which this part isn't absolutely necessary for the bag. So if you're like, I don't have a buckle, then you can skip that piece and it'll still look really cute, but it's a really, really nice accent on the bag. So I do carry these in my shop. I know lots of people carry them. These are 1-inch wide. So you only need one of those. And then I need a slider for my crossbody strap. Rivets, purse feet. We're ready to go. All right, let's dig in. We're going to start with our connectors and our buckle and our strap loop and everything, folding those in. We are pretty much following the pattern as written. So I'll be following the same steps of the pattern. Okay, so this is my strap loop, my strap connectors, my buckle connector, and my flap accent strip. So I have all of these marked somewhat in the center, and I have double-sided tape, and pretty much we're just folding all of these to the center, and we are only top stitching the strap loop to start, and then we'll assemble the rest. Okay, so I have my strap loop and it's top stitched. I have my two D-ring connectors folded. I gave it a good roll. It usually helps if you have a seam roller. Get it pressed down really good. I'm going to put some clips on it so it stays down while we go. And then this is my buckle connector. Okay, So we are going to put those other ones aside. We're going to start with our buckle connector. So you should have gotten a little template with your pattern. We're going to be using that. All right, so we want to take on the back side of this and make some markings. Okay, you're going to mark down on the wrong side. She gives you the measurements on step 5, page 13. And then we are going to place a strip of tape. Pretty much you're folding that other end up to that marking. So you want the tape to go, what, about 5 inches down. Okay, so on the back, I'm putting some double-sided tape, 5 inches down. Okay, and then I'm going to take that tape off. I'm going to fold this other raw edge to meet that line that we drew on the back of our piece and just lay it together nice and even. So now your piece is folded wrong sides together, right sides out. I'm going to take my template piece along that folded, the edge that we folded this all, that's the edge where the point is, okay? And I'm gonna line that up there, just like that. And you wanna do a little marking, trace out that V. Now, if you really wanted to, you could edge coat this piece when you were done. I don't think it really needs it, but you totally could. All right, so now I'm going to top stitch down 1/8 of an inch down, and I'm gonna follow that V that I just drew down there and come back up. Here we go. So you're not going on your drawing, you're going next to it. So line up the middle part of your foot on the side of it with that 1/8 inch seam allowance, and you're following it. Okay. So after it's sewn right there, I am going to make sure and take my wipes are no longer wet. Take your silver marking pen off. Should be where you're going to cut anyways. All right, and then you're just going to cut right next to your stitch line to make that little point. Just like that. Beautiful. Like I said, if you wanted to edge coat that little point, you totally could, but cork, it doesn't fray much. I think we'll be okay. All right, beautiful. So I want to do my buckle attachment on it now. I'm going to get that and my hole punch here. Okay, so there's measurements on how far down to do the hole for your buckle. All right. And I'm just kind of, well, I'm not eyeballing it. I'm using my ruler to mark the center, and then I'm going to do a hole right there with my hand tool, my leather punch. And you want the buckle to be going up. All right, so I'm going to slide this on, and I am going to push the pin through the hole I just did here, and then push this back down through. Easy, easy peasy. There's my buckle piece, okay? Okay, after that's done, I'm going to just set that aside, and we're gonna prep our D-ring connectors real quick. So I have these and my D-rings. Okay, so we're just prepping these. You want to make a marking. Measurement is in the pattern along the back side of your connector here. Okay, and then I'm going to put some tape along this edge. And I'm going to slide my D-ring on, and I'm folding this top edge down to that line we drew and meeting up with it right there, like that. And then I'll put tape along the back. So those are ready to go onto our gusset piece when we're there. Okay, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put a clip on it so it stays put. Same thing with this. Here. And there. Beautiful. Okay. Last thing that we need to do is just put tape on the back of our flap accent piece real quick. I could have done that earlier. Let's just go tape along the back. So this is the piece that goes over your flap. Done. All right, so they're all prepped and ready to go. Let's continue. Okay, so I have my front panel top and my front panel bottom lining piece here. Make sure your drop-in lining is marked on all of your pieces before you sew them on. It'll just make it easier. We want to take these two pieces right sides together, all lined up along the top raw edge here. We're going to sew this together to make one full panel. And then this is the piece that we are going to attach our front main stabilizer onto. You can do them both separately first. Totally up to you. I thought this one wasn't that hard to do, so I was just going to do it after I piece this one together. So we're going to sew these together. We are going to top stitch, and then I will go over to my heat press and attach the back main stabilizer, or the front main stabilizer, to the back of this piece. All right, and you want your seam allowance going down towards the lining, and you want to top stitch along the lining. Okay, just like that. And then I'm going to take my Decaville light. I'm going to put that, where did I put my Decaville light? It's in here somewhere. There it is. This piece right here, my stabilizer, I'm going to line it up on that drop-in lining line. That's kind of like your placement. And I'm going to press that on with my heat press Teflon sheet over it, and then we will continue. Okay, so I have my interfacing on that front panel piece. Put that aside. You want your slip pocket exterior bottom piece, and it should have markings on the pattern piece for your rivets and your snaps. And I put some Decaville behind mine, okay? So we want to attach our little loop here. So I have holes already punched out. Measurements are in the pattern for your loop. And I have some rivets here. So I'm going to do one at a time. So I'm putting that through, and then I'm going to put this on wrong side up onto that rivet, because it's going to be going over like that, right? So you want it wrong side up. I'm going to press this one first. I feel like it's easier to press one and then put on the other one. Just make sure it's laying all kind of straight there. And then put the other one on. And you're just making your little loop, just like that. Pretty cool. Second one's a bit more tricky, but totally doable. I need to get my nails done. They're too long. All right. You want to make sure it's just laying straight when you press it here, which is a little bit more tricky on the second one. But totally doable. There it goes. Very cute. All right, and then we are going to add our snaps, our magnetic snaps, to our markings up here. And you want to do your female snaps on this piece. Male snaps usually go on top, females go on the bottom of your pieces. So these are the females. Maybe I have like plastic covering mine. There's one. Here's the other. Okay, I want to take my washer. I'm going to do my cut lines, lining up the center hole of the washer with that marking from our pattern piece, and just draw those cut lines with a pen. Beautiful. I like to use a little blade tool. Very simple. I'm going to bend my prongs in, up to you whether you want to go in or out with those. And then make sure you cover those prongs with either tape. I like to do some self-adhesive interfacing, but you definitely want to cover those prongs up so they don't rub or put a hole in whatever material they're next to. Easy peasy. And that's what it looks like now. It's got a little face on it. Now you want to add your buckle strap that we finished. Okay, so we are going to mark. You want to mark your center so you know where that's at. And we're just going to baste this buckle on, and I like to kind of place this where I want it. You can control how far down it goes. You don't want it like right next to it, I don't think. So I'm going to move mine up just a little bit, about right there. And then make sure that's in the center and baste that on. Beautiful. Hi, Miss Okie. All right, then you want to take your slip pocket exterior top piece and add that on. Just going to mark out my center real quick with that. So I just am sure I get it right on there. Center to center. Looks pretty good. Okay, sew that on at your seam allowance, and then we're going to flip that up and top stitch it on the top piece. Okay, I'm flipping it up, and my seam allowance is going up towards that top piece, and I'm going to top stitch. So that's what we're looking at. And then we want to take our slip pocket lining right here. And it should be a different size than this piece. That's correct, because you'll see why. So you want to line it up, centered at the top, right sides together. And we are going to sew that on with our seam allowance all the way across. And then the way she has you do this is first we top stitch it flat. So lay it all out, and you are going to top stitch along the lining piece here. So your seam allowance is going towards the lining, and we are going to top stitch on that. And then you want to fold it down so your bottom edges match, okay? The two bottom edges, you're folding them wrong sides together, right sides out, down to the bottom where your curved edges are, and we're matching those curved edges. So it makes it a nice top like that, so it's vinyl on both sides. It's a great way to do a pocket. I absolutely love it. So we are going to go ahead, we can top stitch. She does a double row of top stitch on this. And then if you want, you can go ahead and baste it, but we're just going to be basting it to our back panel. So I'll baste it when I put it on the back panel. So I'm going to do 2 rows of top stitch along the top here. Just make sure it's nice and flat. And then I'll do a second row right next to that one. It's nice and clean when you're done. Look at that. Isn't that cute? All right, and then you're going to take your back, well, front panel, I guess is what it's called. And you're going to add that together. So line up the bottom. I like to line up the curved edge bottoms first. Get that all attached. And then we're just going to baste these all together. that nice? And then that's your big slip pocket right there. Ooh, she's looking pretty. Okay, and then that's your front panel. If you have a little overhang here, just go ahead and trim that down so it's nice and even. That's not a big deal. Okay, let's continue to the next step. Okay, so let's move on to our flap. I have my top and bottom flap pieces here. I went ahead and installed my nameplate. She suggests right down here on this accent piece. So we're going to take this right sides together with the bottom edge, and I have my centers marked to make sure I'm right on it, and we are going to sew that together and then fold it out and top stitch before we add it to the other side of the flap. Again, there are two options. You can do a raw edged flap or a finished edge. I like to do the finished edged option, which is what I'm going to be doing in the video. Okay, we're gonna flip that with our seam allowance going down towards this bottom flat piece. And we are going to top stitch along the bottom piece. Awesome. All right, so I already added my magnetic, the other side of my magnetic snap, so the male portion, to the back side of the flap, and I have it interfaced, covered, all ready to go. All right, so we're gonna take these two pieces, lay them right sides together, wrong sides out. We're gonna clip those all together and sew along all the edges except for this top, because the top is going to be our turning hole. And our seam allowance is pretty small, so pay attention to that. It's not a big seam allowance. And then instead of fusing one of my pieces with some interfacing, I'm sliding in Decaville after I sew and turn this out. Decaville heavy is what I'm using. Okay, so wrong sides together. Beautiful. All right, here we go. Now, if you're a little weary about your curves here and sewing them, I would highly recommend drawing on your seam allowance. That really does help get a really nice curve. I go pretty slow, and my stitching is kind of shorter to get that curve in there. But I've just had some practice at it, so if you're newer at this, I would recommend drawing on your stitch line. Okay. Let me look at my curves. I'm happy with that. I'm going to take some pinking shears and just trim kind of the curves. Don't trim down a ton because your seam allowance isn't very big. So I'm just taking off the edges here with this. Okay. So I'm not taking off a ton. You don't want to get too close to that stitch line there. Okay, so now I'm going to turn this right side out. Pretty easy to do with the materials that I'm using today, so that's nice. And then I like to get a little chopstick tool here to help me get my seam pushed out. Okay, that looks good. All right, so now I'm going to put in my Decaville Heavy and get that situated in there really nicely. Clip it all on, and then I will top stitch with the Decaville inside of the two pieces. And I really want to roll, them out. Roll those edges out. Okay, here we go. Should be a nice tight fit too. I want to make sure it's all the way down by that seam on the bottom. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and top stitch that, and then I can go ahead and sew the top closed as well. I don't need that left open. Okay, there is my flap. I could have done better on the curve down here. Maybe I should take my own advice and draw it on. Yeah, other than that, it looks great. Make sure it matches up on your front. Oh, gorgeous. All right, next up. We're going to work on our back zipper pocket and the back panel. So I've got my zipper tape cut to the length that it needs to be and put on my pull. Don't forget to put on your pull first. Beautiful. And then we have our 2 zipper tabs here. Very simple. We're just going to line them up with the raw edges, sew them on, flip them out, and top stitch. And that's it. Very easy. Beautiful. All right, I'm going to go ahead and mark my center. I think I'm going to use an actual pen. It might just be easier. Maybe, right? Yes. Just want to know where your centers are at. And then we will add it to all of our pieces. Okay, I have done some tape on my bottom and top back panel pieces. Okay, and I also, these are the ones that I interfaced separately, so I don't have to worry about interfacing them after I assemble the piece. Okay, I've got tape top and bottom where the zipper is gonna go here on the right side, and then I have my lining piece right side up. I have double-sided tape top and bottom as well. I think I said zipper tape. Sorry, I mean double-sided tape. I'm going to get my bottom piece first. I'm going to take the tape off of that. I'm going to get my zipper. I want the zipper pull to the left, closing to the left. I'm going to take it right side down, so my right sides are together, and center that along this bottom piece and tape that on. The tape is in place of basting. Does she have you do both? Nope. Okay. You just tape it on. If you are a baster, you could baste it. I like the tape. Then you're going to take your zipper pocket piece on one of the right sides, take the covering off of that backing, and then you're going to line that up. You know what? I need to mark my center. I did not do that. Okay. Line your centers right there. It's going to be a little shorter than your back piece. That is on purpose. It's to keep it out of your seam allowance. I need to mark my center on this side too real quick. All right. We are going to sew that at our seam allowance all along the top edge here. All the way across. All right, and then you're going to flip this out and down and pull your zipper so the zipper is facing up. So the raw edge of your zipper is now at the top, and this is down. Pulled down. You are going to top stitch along the bottom all the way across. Okay, so that's what that looks like right now. So next we want to bring the bottom of your zipper pocket up to the top here along the back. And just tape that along the top edge. Now, if you want, you can go ahead and close it up. You know what? I'll just go ahead and do how she has in the pattern. She closes this up now before we put on that top piece. So we'll go ahead and sew our edges shut. You're flipping out your exterior, and you're just going up as far as you can. You won't be able to go up all the way, obviously, because the other stuff is in the way. So just go up as far as you can. And do that on both sides. And that just closes up your pocket. Okay, and now we're going to add our top panel piece. Make sure you're adding the right one. So my drop-in lining line is right there. So that's the top of my piece, okay? So make sure you're doing it correctly. If you haven't added your interpiecing and haven't marked your line, that's not a problem, but okay. Right there. That should line up. Beautiful. And then we'll sew that on at our full seam allowance. Your zipper tabs should have a tiny bit of an overlay just to give you a little wiggle room. So I'm going to go ahead and trim those down even. I'm going to flip this up and top stitch with my seam allowance going up towards my top panel. Beautiful. And so I don't have to attach my interfacing now because it's already there. Looks great. And let's see. We want to move on to the next step. Okay, so we are going to attach our flap onto our back panel piece. There are markings on your pattern piece for your top piece, and it has your flap placement and your flap strip placement here. So this bottom line is the placement for my flap. Okay, so I also marked my center so I can get it on there nice and straight. And we are going to baste our flap on first. And you want your flap laying up, right side up. So I've got my center marked. I'm going to lay that along the line there. Beautiful. Okay, I'm going to top stitch that real quick. Not top stitch, baste. I'm going to baste that on. Okay, once that's basted on, you're going to take your flap accent strip. Am I calling it the right thing? Flap accent strip? I am. Wow. And you're going to line it up, the top of it, with these two markings that were on your pattern piece. That's going to be the top of it, so it covers the raw edge of your flap. Just like that. And then you want to top stitch top and bottom of that piece. Here we go. Be aware your foot might get caught right there coming on and off. So if you have teeth on the bottom of your foot, make sure you're protecting it. I have a smooth foot now, so I don't have to worry about that as much as I used to. Okay. There she is. Make sure you have your centers marked on this main panel piece for the assembly of the body. And we're going to move to the gusset. All right, we're going to work on our gussets. So I have my D-ring connectors here that we prepped earlier. These are my two top gusset pieces, which I interface separately. So I'm not going to have to do that after I assemble. I have my top and bottom centers marked, and I have a line down my center so I can get this on there nice and centered along the piece. So I take the tape off. The bigger, wider edge is the edge that we are putting this on. So I'm going to line it up with the center and try and go down the center of the piece there. That looks a little bit off. Yep, it moved a tiny bit. Try that again. Right there. Okay. And then she gives you a measurement for how, when we top stitch this on, she gives you a measurement for how far up and over to go. So I'm going to mark that because you want room for a rivet above your stitching. So I think it's important that you follow the measurement for that. So I'm just going to mark it now. And then I'm going to go ahead and put this on as well, and then we will top stitch these pieces on. Beautiful. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to top stitch that on and go up and over. Let's do it. Make sure you protect that back foot underneath that vinyl and hardware there. Just don't want it to get caught. Okay, beautiful. I'm going to do the second one here. Awesome. All right, I'm going to go ahead while my pieces are smaller and easier. I'm going to go ahead and put on my rivet. And it's going to go right above our stitching there. I would definitely do it after you have whatever interfacing you're doing on your piece. So mine's already on there. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and put my rivet on. Do it before or after you piece the rest together. Totally up to you. Just like that. Okay, I'm going to go press that and then we'll finish the piecing the rest of this together. All right, looks good. We're going to take these bottom gusset pieces here and we are going to lay it right sides together, wrong sides out with the bottom edge where the connector is. And we are going to sew that on, making the full back piece. Okay, with our seam allowance given in the pattern. Here we go. And we want to press our seam allowance down towards the bottom piece and top stitch. Okay, beautiful. Same thing with this one. Okay, after those are pieced together and you have your interfacing on, whatever kind of interfacing you're gonna do, you wanna add your magnetic snaps. And she gives the measurement in the pattern. The first time I made this bag, I made sure I put on the pocket part to the side panel with the magnetic snap and made sure it lined up with the measurement she has. And I'm here to tell you, yes, it's perfect. It lines up perfectly. So I'm just going to go ahead and install it this time before I put on the pocket because I know that it's going to match now. So that measurement she gives you, that's your center marking for your washer. Okay. Okay, I'm going to just go ahead and install these magnetic snaps off camera. This will be the female side of the snap, and the male will go on the pocket part, and we will continue. My snaps are added. All looks good. I'm going to set these two pieces aside for a minute. We've got our gusset pocket pieces. So we've got the exterior and the lining. I have already marked and cut the lines to install my other side of the magnetic snap. Do that before you assemble this because it's really close to your stitch line. So you want to be able to make sure that you can get that done. Okay, so along the top edge, you are going to line up your lining pocket piece centered along that top edge. And we are going to sew that on. And then we will flip it out and we will top stitch. I'm going to just do that on both real quick. Okay. Let's do it. Okay, I'm going to flip it up and top stitch on my lining. All right, and then just like we did with that slip pocket on the exterior, you are going to flip this to meet the bottom edges here. And it'll create that fold right there, and that's where we're going to top stitch, okay? Beautiful. I'm going to go ahead and do it with this one as well. We are going to take this apart to install our snap, but I like to just clip it all flat together like this to make sure that my top stitching is where it needs to be. All right, so let's top stitch. Again, we're going to do that double row just like we did on the slip pocket. All right, so then I'm gonna just take it apart real quick. I'm going to install my snap. Your slit should be on the back, right at the top there. Let me see. It should fit perfectly right there. See that? Okay. Beautiful. And then after you have that snap installed, I would recommend basting these two layers together. It will make us putting it onto your other piece a lot easier. So I'm going to go around and baste. Beautiful. Okay, and then when you want to get this piece, what I like to do, I'm going to make sure that that lines up there, lines up perfectly with the bottom. Okay, so I am going to baste my bottom together first before I baste the sides. For me, this was easier to baste first, and then it doesn't shift when you're trying to put on the sides. And then I just like to do one side at a time here. So unsnap it if it's snapped and start clipping it even, because the pocket is going to be bowing out so you can put stuff in it, all right? Okay, I'm going to baste that on first. And then I will grab it and do the other side. All right, so when you're done, it should look like that, and your snaps should line up, and it'll stand out like that. Hey, oh, very cute. If you didn't want to have the snap there to hold it together, you don't have to have the snap. You don't have to add the snap. But it is a cute little feature. It'll secure whatever's in there a little bit better, but it is not necessary. It's just a cute design feature and security feature. All right, I'm going to go ahead and repeat for the second gusset off camera, just real quick, and then we will finish putting the exterior together. I've got both sides done. We're ready to add the base to our sides and complete the gusset. So I have my base piece. We're going to start with one side here, and we're going to sew it on. Pay attention, because this is where the seam allowance changes just a little bit. It's kind of been the same throughout, and then it changes on some of the assembly of the bag. So pay attention to your seam allowance. All right, we're going to go ahead and sew this together. Right sides together along the bottom. Okay, and then you're going to want to flip that base piece down. And we are going to top stitch along a base. I am going to do something that's not in the pattern. I'm just going to trim this seam here and this seam here. Just for when we're assembling the bag in the end, that might be a little helpful to have a thinner seam allowance right there. So I just did a tiny bit of a clip right there. I'll show you a little bit better on the other side. I noticed I didn't show you very well. All right, so there's that one. And now we want to add this side. Same thing, okay? Right sides together, just like this. And then we'll have our full gusset. We'll have to clip centers on everything before we assemble the exterior of the bag. But we are almost there. All right, now this is what I did. These two edges here, I just took it in at an angle like that. It's just gonna help with the thickness around here when we sew it all together. You don't have to do that, but it was pretty thick when I was assembling it. So it depends on what materials you're using too. I'm using thicker materials, so. Okay, and now we want to top stitch across the base again. I imagine you could probably flatten this seam out as well and top stitch along each side if you wanted to. I think both ways would work. Okay, so that's my gorgeous gusset. I'm just gonna clip my, could have done this beforehand, but I forgot. I'm just gonna clip my bottom centers here. Okay. Your seam allowance on the whole of this bag is a pretty small seam allowance. So just make sure when you're clipping your centers and stuff, you don't do anything crazy big. All right. Let's assemble the exterior. Okay, so whenever I do a bag and I have to assemble the exterior, I like to go with the piece that has the most things to it first. So I'm not fighting it as much. So I'm gonna go with my flap side first. So when I put on the other side, I'm not fighting with that extra piece in there. So I am going to take it right sides together. I've got my bottom center here and the bottom center here, and that's what I'm gonna start clipping first. And then I like to use a little bit stronger of clips for this part to hold it all in place. So I use my metal clips when assembling gussets. They work a little bit better than the plastic ones if you want a really good strong hold. I'm going to just clip all along the bottom, and then I will clip along the top and come down. And then we will work the curves in last, and I will probably do some just tiny snips along the gusset, nothing big, because again, our seam allowance is pretty small on this bag. So just be aware of that. Okay, so you kind of got to move your flap out of the way here. I'm going to match the top edges up here. I think Marley May wants out. Let you out in a minute, babe. I'm gonna just keep going down all the way. Okay, so you got top, and then we have to work in this curve right here. So I'm going to do the same on this side first, over here. All right, so once we get there, I need to do some clips into my gusset piece here. All right, not my main panel, but my gusset. And I'm just doing little 1/8 inch snips in this curve, nothing bigger than that. You go bigger than that and it won't work. Okay, just tiny. We just want to get this to curve in and fit nice. My nose itches, sorry. Whew. Okay, I don't want to sneeze. All right, here we go. Anybody else have allergies right now? My allergies are crazy. So you kind of want to pull that in and stretch out that gusset around it. And just clip that all together. Work that in there. It's a pretty tight fit. Like, you're going to have to work with it just a little bit. But you'll be able to get it. Okay. Do the other side here. Beautiful. Okay, we're all clipped on. Okay, I'm going to first baste this together. It's not a big seam allowance, but I feel like if I baste it and then sew it at full seam allowance, it gives me the best result. So I will baste this first, and then we will sew around at the full seam allowance, and then we will add on the other side. All right, I am going to start at the top at my full seam allowance because I want my seam to be able to lay flat. And if I baste all the way at the top, then it won't lay flat when I go to do my drop in. So I'll start at my full seam allowance right here. And then I'll go down to my basting, which isn't much of a difference because it's a small seam allowance for this bag. All right, so about right there. Okay, I'm gonna go down to my basting stitch now. And you know, I do love a double row of stitching on exterior vinyl bags. I feel like it helps with the stitches not pulling and showing when the bag is all done. So I would do 2 rows of stitching no matter what on this bag. But as always, when you baste, I feel like you're able to keep your layers together better. And it kind of takes the place of stapling for me. Okay, and then I'm gonna go back to that bigger seam allowance up top. Get my flap out of the way there. Okay, I'm gonna go around one more time at my full seam allowance. Okay, it looks good. I will go ahead and do pinking shears, like just around these two curves when I'm done with the second side, but I'm going to do the second side first, and then we'll pinking shear and turn. All right, we're just doing the same thing we did on the front panel. Now we're just doing it on the back, or second side, I should say, because this is actually the front panel I'm working on. You get what I mean. All right, so I'm just gonna trim down these little corners here with some pinking shears. My layers this time around are a lot thicker, so I don't know if they'll be able to handle it. I'll do the best I can here. Yeah, it might be too many layers for my little scissors. This side's a little bit easier. Again, I'm just barely, because it's such a small seam allowance. Okay, and then I'm gonna give it a shot of heat because it is a lot easier to turn when it's warm. Here we go. Okay, so now I just need to smooth out all of my seams here, kind of get them pushed out nice. Everything's looking good. Okay, oof. There we go. All right, there's our exterior, guys. Come on, little snap. Ta-da! Oh my goodness, that looks awesome. All right, so there is our exterior all ready to go. I am going to head to the lining. We'll get that done. This is a drop-in lining. So we will be putting tape along this top edge inside and folding it down all nice and neat before we sew it to our lining. But let's head there right now. Okay. Okay, so we're going to move on to the inside of our bag, to the lining. I am just doing a welted pocket. I'm not doing a zipper pocket, so feel free to add a zipper pocket, any kind of pockets you want, really, more slip pockets, whatever. I really like this pocket. She has a separate link to show you how to do this one. It's not hard. It's pretty dang easy, and it looks nice. So I have my measurement for how far down to place, and I have my center line. This is my pocket facing piece. So I'm just going to place that right there centered, and I'm going to sew around that box that I drew. I just transferred the markings from the pattern piece, and those are our stitch lines. Okay, so I'm going to sew around that, cut out the middle, and turn it through. Kind of like you do a zipper pocket, except we're just doing a tiny facing piece, okay? It's helpful if you have material that either creases nicely or you can iron for this type of pocket. I did it with the bonded nylon on my last bag, and I was able to do it. I had to use tape to hold everything down. It just doesn't iron flat, and it doesn't stay put nicely when you crease it. So it's a little trickier, but it's doable for a pocket like this. So I thought this time I would use some of this waterproof canvas, thinking it might give me a better result and it would crease nicely. So we're just gonna do it this way. Let's see how it works. Okay, so that's that. I'm just going to cut the middle out. And then you want to do the little Y right up to the seam at the corner. Don't cut through your stitching, but right up to it. Okay. And then I want to turn it through. Let's make sure I didn't cut my stitches. No, I didn't. Okay. I'm going to go like this first and give it a good crease. All right, let's try it. Pull her back. All right, I'm going to use some clips just to get that to stay where I want it. I could give this a press with heat. Protect it with a Teflon sheet. It might help. I feel like it's going to be okay though. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just kind of pressing it really good. Okay. This is my welted pocket accent piece. I've got tape here. I've got tape here. So first I'm going to press it in half. Wrong sides together, right sides out. Just like that. Okay, and then I have another piece of tape along the bottom raw edge there. And then I have my welted pocket piece, my slip pocket piece with tape on both ends of the right side of it. All right, so first, all right, let's make sure this is gonna stay. All right, I think it's creased on there. You know what? I'm going to get my roller tool real quick and roll it as well. Stay put, please. Maybe if you talk to it nice, that'll help. Maybe. All right. I want to put this welted pocket piece, so it's on the back here, and it has about 1/4 inch maybe. I'm just going to line it up with the edge of my tape actually and place it along the bottom. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I like that idea. Okay, so center it. Cute. So that's what that looks like. That's the folded edge, and this is the raw edge on the inside. Okay, and then you want to get your zipper pocket piece, or oh my gosh, your slip pocket piece. And you are going to tape it to the bottom, right side down. This is kind of like a zipper overlay right now. When you do a zipper overlay, this is kind of the way you do it. So we're going to sew just along this bottom edge and across, which attaches the accent piece and our zipper pocket piece, or oh my gosh, our slip pocket line piece. I'm just going to keep calling it a zipper pocket piece, so that's all there is to that. All right. And then I'll be pulling my threads through so it looks like a continuous row of stitching. So that's what that has so far, okay? It's kind of a fun way to do a slip pocket. It's different. It adds a pop on the inside of your bag. I really like it. Depending on your materials, you have to fight with them just a little bit, but it's totally doable. Don't let that detour you. Okay, so now you want to fold this down, and then we're just going to tape it to the top here. We're going to bring it up, and we are going to place it at the top. You can line it up with your facing, however you want to do it. Just like that. Okay. And then it's like it's a pocket. So now all we have to do is sew around the side, the top, and back down along the side and close it up. So just pick up where you left off with your last row of stitching right there. Isn't that cute? I like it. All right, so I'm just gonna pull through these threads, tie them off, and then close up the sides. All right, so I'm just going to pull my lining out of the way and close this up. Awesome. All right, so if you're going to do another pocket on the other side, go ahead and do that. And then we are going to put this all together. Okay, let's finish our lining. So I put a little tag right there. It says created for a serious goose. I thought that was cute for this bag. If my son likes it, I'm giving it to him. If he doesn't, that's fine. So we have our lining, top lining accent pieces. Make sure that you are marking your drop-in lining. I went ahead and put my tape on. I thought it might be easier if I do it now than after the fact, and I just left it out of my seams on the sides. And make sure that your piece is facing correctly. It has a slight angle up on each edge. Your wider side is the top of your piece. Okay, I'm going to match it centers here. And we are going to right sides together. We're going to sew this on, flip it up, and then top stitch on the lining side. So your seam will be going towards the lining, top stitching on the lining. Okay, here we go. right, so flip it, seam towards the lining. That tag is really cute. All right, repeat for the other side. That tag is from Emporium Threads. If you are interested in where it came from, I will try to remember to link it down below in the descriptions. If I don't link it, just comment and remind me, and I'll send you the link. All right, same thing here. All right, so we're just going to sew these two together. We're going to go right sides together. We're going to sew it all up. We don't have to leave it open because it is a drop-in lining. Make sure you're lining up those seams where the vinyl and your lining meet there. And then clip it all together. You're going to start at your normal seam allowance, and then you're going to increase to ensure a nice fit inside your bag. You don't want a baggy lining. So that is the key. But you got to be sure you go back to your normal seam allowance at the two top sides, or else it won't fit inside your bag correctly. Okay. And we're boxing corners, and guys, then we drop it in and sew it. Let's do it. All right, so I'm starting at that normal seam allowance up here at the top, and then I will increase as I go. And I just pull it, and then I keep going. I just go all the way around. Make sure you go back to that smaller seam allowance up here at the top. All right. I'm going to trim it down just a little bit before I box those corners. You don't have to trim a ton, but you know, just a little bit so it's not so bulky inside of your bag. Beautiful. Okay, and then let's box our corners here. You can just nest those seams. You don't necessarily have to press them open, but it's really just whatever you prefer. Okay, boxing those corners. Okay. All right, that is our lining. And then all we have to do now is fold down the top here. And I'll have to do the same with my exterior. I already put tape around the top of my exterior just to make this go a little bit easier. You could put tape on your seams to flatten them out. You don't have to. You can just, you know, tape them flat as you go, but I'm just gonna tape them like that. Beautiful. Not going anywhere. Okay, I'm gonna do the same on this one. I am going to sew these two layers together over on my cylinder arm. This is a nice big opening. It is totally doable on a flatbed machine like this or on a domestic, but I'm just going to do my cylinder because I have it and that's what it's for. So I might as well, right? And then after we sew these, this lining and exterior together, all that's left is our crossbody strap, I believe. And then we are done with this gorgeous pattern. My tape is not wanting to keep my seam open. You could use glue too if you really wanted to. I mean, you just need it to stay open so you can fold it down and put the two layers together. So I'll show you. So I have my line drawn on there and that is where I'm folding the top down to. And you definitely need to put some clips on the seams here. I'm just going to do some clips for reassurance so it doesn't pop up. Now, I'm guessing if you really wanted to, you could probably birth this bag through, you could do a double opening, right? You could leave a pocket open and you could leave the full bottom open of the lining and do a double hole turn if you did not want to do a drop-in lining. I can guarantee you that's possible. So keep that in mind. If you're like, ugh, I don't like drop-ins, then birth it. Birth it, baby. I have to admit, I don't mind drop-in linings anymore ever since I got my cylinder arm. It's way more doable. Yeah. So there's my lining. So I have the tape all on my exterior body already. So all I need to do, I just had clips keeping that seam open. So all I need to do is take this tape off and fold that down. And then I will put the lining in. Okay. Now keep in mind when you put the lining in where you want your pockets. I want my pocket along the back side of the bag. Just gonna slip that down in there. It should fit really nice. Should be a nice fit. Okay, so I want to match my side centers. Now I do have it clipped so I can kind of see where my center is, and I'm going to line that up with the seam. So that's kind of easy to see for me right there. And just do your side centers and then middle and go out. Okay. Yup, looks good. All right. I am now going to move over to my cylinder arm and we will sew that on. I would suggest if you're on a flatbed to sew it flat down like this and go on the inside and around. It might be the easiest option. And then we'll make our strap and be done. All right, here we go. I'm at my cylinder arm. I like to start kind of on the back with my stitching. So I have to make sure I hold my threads, super important on a machine like this, or else you could jam up the entire thing, which would be super sad. All right, here we go. All right. Okay. Bag is done. It looks great. I got both my layers. Nothing slipped. Yup. Looks good. That lining situated in there. It fits really nice. Oh my goodness. I love this pattern. It is a great pattern. Okay. There it is. There she is. We are going to do the crossbody strap real quick. It's very basic. I'm just going to show you how she has the little loops, the accent loops on there. I do it just a little bit different. I'm going to sew them on instead of rivet them on. But other than that, it's the same thing. And then we'll be done. Okay, so I have my little strap cover pieces here. So you're just going to take these. I changed my thread to match my strap cover pieces since I'm sewing them onto my webbing. I have black webbing. So I think the caramel thread will look the best because I'm going to be sewing these on, and you'll see what I mean. So you want to sew these right sides together, just like that. And you want to be sure your threads are melted or cut because you don't want those showing from the top side. Okay, and then you want to open the seam. I'm just going to put some tape on the seam, and you're going to do it to both of them. Just making little loops. This is such an easy little hack that would look good on any strap. I love it. And it's not as complicated as other techniques, but has a nice finish to it. So I'm just doing the second one here. Okay, so I'm going to lay that seam flat. I'm going to turn it right side out, and that will slide onto our webbing, okay? So seam flat, we're going to turn it right side out. And if your seam kind of like sticks out, just trim that down. All right, and then I'm just gonna put a clip on it so it stays flat. Okay, it took me a hot second to figure out how to slide on these onto my webbing. So the first one I'm going to slide on right now. And I'm going to do one hook, the first hook first here. Okay. So I'm going to sew this down first, and then I'm going to move this up and sew it on. Again, you can use rivets for this instead of sewing it on if you would like. Totally up to you. I don't like, you'd have to do it on each side. So I don't like a rivet through the seam of this piece. I feel like it weakens the stitching. So I thought I would just sew mine on, and I really like how it looked. So I just did that, and then you move this up and kind of put that over where you sewed it together. Get that centered there. Just like that. And now I'm going to stitch it down top and bottom. the first one. Now I'm going to do it along the bottom edge. Really like how it looks. Isn't that cool? All right, so now for the second part, I have to think about this. I think what I did was right on the hook, and then I added this on. Oh, what did I do? Oh, just kidding. Slider first, then the hook, and then this comes on here. Okay, slide this on. And then this comes up and over. Just like that. Okay. And then you attach this here to itself, and then we're going to move this up and cover it just like we did on the other one. And then that's our crossbody strap. All right. All right, and then I'm moving this up, covering up that raw edge. Beautiful. Okay, and then I'm going to sew that top and bottom, and then we're done. Done. Ta-da! Okay, we're all done. Here is our Route 1970. I mean, how awesome is this pattern? I absolutely love it. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Go grab it. You guys will not be disappointed. This is my second one, and I enjoyed each so much. You will love it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this tutorial was helpful. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate it. It helps me out. Let me know if you have any comments or questions, And we'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.